and thank you for attending our presentation. My name is Daniel Brunt. These are my colleagues. And together we are TT Consulting. Today we're going to be presenting our recommendations for Best Buy. So just a brief overview of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to start with a quick history of the firm, look at some of the issues that Best Buy has been facing, walk you through both our external and internal analysis, as well as some alternative recommendations, and then dive into our recommendations and implementation strategies. Among those include capitalizing on big data, expanding the presence of Best Buy mobile both domestically and internationally, and venturing into private label products and exclusive offerings. Together, we think these three recommendations will add about $5 billion of operating profit to Best Buy. So with that, I'm interested to start with our history.
Thanks, Dan. As Dan said, I'm going to start with a brief history of Best Buy. In 1966, a man by the name of Richard Schultz opened the Sound of Music store in Minnesota. After years of success, Schultz decided to change locations and open the first Best Buy Superstore in 1983. 2 years later, Best Buy went public and raised $2 million in the NASDAQ. In 1999, Best Buy and Microsoft formed a partnership in order to cross-promote both their products. A year later, in 2000, was the launch of BestBuy.com. By 2002, Richard Schultz stepped down as CEO and was replaced by Brad Anderson, who made a movement towards a more customer-centric strategy. In recent years, Best Buy has been struggling slightly. In March of 2012, Best Buy announced yearly losses of $1.2 billion. And they made plans to close 50 big box stores and lay off 400 workers in order to save $800 million in expenses. In April of 2012, CEO Brian Dunn resigned to be replaced by Mike Bigham as interim CEO. 1 month later, allegations of sexual misconduct arose against Dunn, which forced Schultz to resign after nearly 50 years of service for Best Buy. Recently, Schultz has begun to explore the idea of taking the company private, and as of June 2012, he remains the company's largest shareholder. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Derek for some of the issues Best Buy is currently facing.
All right, thank you, Nick. So clearly going forward, Best Buy is going to have some serious issues that it's going to have to contend with. Perhaps the most prominent of those is the fact that there are an increasing number of competitors in its marketplace. So whether it's mass merchandisers, wholesale clubs, e-commerce companies, an increasing number of competitors means prices are being driven down, and it becomes tougher to differentiate the Best Buy brand. Of course, you also have this idea of showrooming, where customers are going into Best Buy stores, checking out their product assortment, getting help from their floor sales staff, but then going and making purchases online at another vendor. Another issue that they're contending with is that manufacturers are more and more making sales directly to consumers. So whether they're doing that through their own websites or through their own retail stores, that's directly competing with the Best Buy model. Of course, you also have this other issue where a lot of entertainment products are now, customers can now access those digitally. So whether they're downloading it through video on demand, downloading music off of a venue like iTunes, or even accessing video games through a streaming site, all those things means that the consumers are not going into the Best Buy stores and they're accessing products through other means. This next issue we have here is something that Best Buy has been facing for some time now, and that's just the issue that consumer electronics are increasingly becoming commoditized. So while products that are recently released might have some new features, it doesn't take much time for competitors to match those features, and the only differentiator becomes price, and that clearly doesn't play well into Best Buy's strategy. That's particularly concerning considering the fact that Best Buy has a high cost structure. So while they want to have a wide product assortment, they want to have a knowledgeable floor sales staff, both of those things mean that they're going to have higher fixed costs. And then this last thing that we want to point out is the fact that in recent years, they've been lagging behind their competitors in terms of customer satisfaction. This graph, clearly shows that not only are they lagging behind the broader marketplace, but most noticeably that top line there is Amazon, who is perhaps the biggest threat nowadays. And with that, you're just going to take it up with an external analysis.
Thank you, Derek. So I'm going to explain the external analysis with Paula's hypothesis. First of all, the threat of a new entrant is medium because it needs a huge investment and time on creating stores and having a well relationship with suppliers. But nowadays, it requires less investment. So there is a chance to get into this industry. So that's why we put medium on that. And next is bargaining power for suppliers is medium because Best Buy's revenues, as
relies on major suppliers such as Dell, Apple, and Samsung. But on the other hand, those suppliers have to make sure they have a good relationship with Best Buy because Best Buy has the largest revenues in the industry. Next is bargaining power buyers. This is high because the many items sold by Best Buy are available online or other retail stores. Especially online shopping provides customers much information about price availability from competitors. So the customer has many choices where to buy the cheapest product. And the next is breadth of substitute product. This is high because the substitutes, including e-commerce retailers, and much of that retailers, digital content distributors are very powerful. As Derek mentioned, the customers nowadays tend to download music, movies, or games online. So the Best Buy has been having a hard time competing with those types of products. And lastly, intensity of competitive library is high. I'm going to explain this with this competitive analysis. We listed up 5 top companies. Those 5 companies have more than 60% share in industries. And if you look at the year-over-year percent change, Amazon.com has 51.5%, while Best Buy only has 0.2%. So we conclude that Best Buy has been facing on the high set of competitors. And now Dan is going to talk about internal analysis.
Thanks, Yuki. So to start our internal analysis, we took a look at Best Buy's resources. Obviously, by being such a dominant player in the consumer electronics market, they have both the global network and the brand recognition that comes along with that. In addition to that, they have a tremendous amount of technical proficiency, whether that be through Beach Squad or a very knowledgeable floor staff. Next, a very powerful resource is their click and mortar model, meaning that customers can either choose to buy online or they can walk into a store, talk to a salesperson, see and touch a product, and then make a purchase in the store. Additionally, they have a really established supply chain because of the clout that they have in the industry, as well as very stable cash flows, which will be extremely important with regards to implementing our strategies. With regards to capabilities, obviously they have a very diverse product offering, which goes a long way with a lot of customers. They have a tremendous amount of capability for technical support, as well as in-store customer service, and we hope that they will leverage these capabilities even further going forward. Next, they do have a lot of economies of scope because they are such a dominant player in the market, and because of that, they're able to offer pretty reasonable prices to many of their customers, which leads to their first core competency, the value proposition of simultaneously having reasonably priced items, as well as in-store customer service and salespeople to help you make the best choice. Additionally, they have an extensive array of merchandise, so customers know that when they do go to Best Buy, a sales professional is going to help them make the best choice and the best purchase for them, as opposed to going to a manufacturer that only sells their products. Lastly, they have a very strong online presence, whether it be through their own internet sales with Best Buy Online, or through Best Buy Marketplace, which has been established more recently for third-party vendors. Moving on to our SWOT analysis, a lot of this has been covered on previous slides, but just a few things I want to mention with regards to strengths and weaknesses and threats. So with regards to weaknesses, obviously they're having some issues with top-level management, as well as some governance issues. That being said, they do have a tremendous amount of opportunities, things like emerging markets and the improving global economy that comes along with it. They also have availability of big data and the analytics tools and suites to effectively implement that data. And last, they have the fast cycle nature of the technology markets, which we hope to take advantage of with exclusive products and private label offerings. With regards to threats, there are some looming, especially those shareholder lawsuits that are pending, and the rather robust competition that's been mentioned previously. With that, Yuki's going to talk about some of our alternative recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So I'm going to briefly explain the alternatives. The first alternative is to invest in small, medium business subsidies. The reasons why we are not suggesting this is due to high competition and inadequate infrastructure. And the next alternative is to enhance the Best Buy mobile app. So again, we are not suggesting this because it's hard to monetize, and the existing app already serves the basic purposes. Now Dan is going to talk about our first recommendation.
Thanks, Yuki. So our first recommendation is to capitalize on big data. We find this to be both immensely profitable and highly feasible. We think this is the first step towards gaining a leg up on our smaller competitors, as well as increasing our customer satisfaction. The first step towards implementing this strategy is to hire the necessary personnel. That means everything from a C-suite executive, our chief data officer, down to chief analytics officers for each business unit, as well as a variety of business analytics specialists to handle the day-to-day operations. Next, we need to establish achievable KPIs, or key performance indicators, that we can achieve over our 5-year time horizon. And next, we need to start adopting a very data-centric culture in Best Buy, where employees understand how important it is to both collect and utilize data. Once we've established that, we think we really need to start leveraging data streams, things like customer loyalty cards, things like online product reviews, and even utilizing our social media presence to collect data streams and then utilize them and monetize them in the form of revenue growth, cost reduction, and customer loyalty. A recent study came out by IBM that said effective optimization of a data suite can lead to 49% increase in revenue growth. So keeping that in mind, and with regards to things like infrastructure costs, personnel, and software costs, we see this adding about $4 billion to the top line over the next 5 years, and about $3.6 billion to our operating profit. So with that, Nick is going to talk about our next recommendation.
Thanks, Dan. So our next recommendation is to focus on exclusive products as well as private label offerings. In order to do this, we suggest Best Buy roll out a new exclusive product every quarter. Best Buy needs to leverage their existing supplier relationships to really secure this exclusivity. We suggest that Best Buy offer incentives such as brand promotion as well as supplier kickbacks to really secure these supplier relationships. Next, we suggest that Best Buy launch quarterly marketing campaigns to promote the awareness of these exclusive products. We want to allocate around $50 million to these quarterly marketing campaigns, as well as hold press conferences for product announcements to really promote awareness of these exclusive brands at Best Buy. Next, we want to introduce a new private label product every 6 months. We're going to hold contests for concept product designs, which means that any individual from the public will be allowed to submit a concept that will be under review by Best Buy for the potential for a cash reward. This will spur innovation and hopefully new products as well for Best Buy. We want to conduct market research to identify the gaps in the consumer electronic product offerings. We're going to do this for both the exclusive products as well as the private label offering. So we're going to create a $10 million research and development budget for this purpose. Lastly, we want to cycle between consumer electronics, computing, mobile phones, and entertainment, so we can have some variety in our new private label as well as exclusive product releases. We see 5-year revenues coming in at about $8.7 billion, with operating profit coming in around $500 million. We see this being moderately feasible just because we see some logistical obstacles that Best Buy might have to face down the road. We are hopeful that this recommendation will help counteract some of the major issues facing Best Buy. Firstly, these exclusive products and new private label offerings offer much higher profit margins, will help counteract the high cost structure that Best Buy currently has to deal with. Secondly, it will also take away and eliminate this idea of showrooming, as these products will only be offered through Best Buy on their website or in their store. So customers or consumers will come in and actually have to purchase directly from Best Buy. With that, I'm going to pass the last recommendation off to Derek.
All right, thanks, Nick. So for our final recommendation, as we already mentioned, we want to expand the presence of Best Buy Mobile. We want to do this both domestically and internationally. And we think this is going to help, address the issue of that high cost structure. It'll help them rotate out of those larger format, big retail Best Buy stores and expand the presence of these smaller format stores and increase their profit per square foot. We think that, going internationally, they need to take advantage of the retail presence that they already have in China. Right now, they have a 5-star brand that operates there, so we think that they can build out a store within a store model there, test the marketplace out, figure out what the optimal product mix is, what staffing levels are required, what promotions work, and then once that proves successful, further venture out into China, and then, of course, into the neighboring emerging Asian economies. 2 things we want to point out that are crucial to executing this successfully. The first of which is, pushing those warranty and extended service contract sales. Historically speaking, these sales have brought in anywhere between 50 to 60% profit margins, which obviously is significant. Currently, they only make up about 2.7% of their total yearly revenues. We think that it's reasonable to bring that up to about 3.5%, and if they do that, it will definitely impact their bottom line. And then, of course, secondly, you want to highlight the wide product assortment and knowledgeable floor sales staff, and you want to, again, push some of those higher margin products like those mobile accessories. So over a 5-year time horizon, this should add about $8 billion to the top line and an additional $1.1 billion in operating profit. And with that concludes our presentation. Thank you guys for your time today, and we'll open the floor to any questions.
typical Best Buy target market? What is their customer?
Sure. So obviously, Best Buy tries to cater to as many customers as possible simultaneously. I think in these times, we should be really focusing on baby boomers. I think that these are the people that aren't going to be making purchases online, that aren't comfortable, just making a decision based on viewing a product through, an e-commerce website. We're going to focus on people that need to walk into a store and gain some expertise from professionals before making a purchase. And so those are the people that we're trying to most effectively cater to right now.
Where are they in the life cycle of the marketing? Are they early adopters? Are they in the middle? Are they towards the end? Are they the type that are going to wait and buy once they see these products?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I don't think we're talking about very early adapters here or early movers. I think we're talking about people who are going to be purchasing established products. But I think that's okay because I think Best Buy really does a great job of having those established products. We're not creating new tech. We're not doing venture capital. We're establishing relationships with manufacturers that have proven sales, and we're putting products on our shelves that we're sure are going to move.
Your first recommendation to capitalize on big data, you mentioned monetizing in terms of customer loyalty, revenue growth, cost reduction. Maybe if you could unpack that a little bit and tell me what some concrete action steps would be to do that.
Sure. So I'll just give some examples. Let's say, so I'm sure you know when you go on Amazon, if you buy a product, Amazon knows which products you bought, and next time you go on, they'll recommend good products for you. Best Buy's not doing a great job of that. So that's one way to do some cross and upselling. With regards to cost reduction, we think that we can do a much better job handling our inventory. It's not something we had a tremendous amount of time to go into, but it is somewhat of a weak point for Best Buy, and we think that if we did a better job with regards to our supply chain and gathering data on that we could cut costs there. And then customer loyalty, much in the same way that we're recommending better products for them, we're just able to better meet their needs. If we're looking at online product reviews, we know what customers want. And the next time that we're talking to a manufacturer, we're going to know which products are best for our customers. So if we're able to increase customer loyalty, that should increase revenues as well indirectly.
Do you see having to utilize rewards points or other cost measures to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look in our appendix, when we were talking about the numbers for this, so we did include about 40 data creating incentives of about $40 million, which is our last line item there. So we think that effectively utilizing things like customer loyalty cards, online reviews, and social media incentives are actually going to be fairly cheap, but that the real cost is going to come from the data creating incentives.
Given the past failures and the concerns internationally with that marketplace, wouldn't Best Buy be much better off just focusing on the domestic market and really take on Amazon in a meaningful way, as you're suggesting, with these exclusive products and new private labels and also that gap research?
I think I'll handle that. I think that the domestic market does have opportunities for Best Buy, but largely speaking, it's a much more competitive marketplace for them than some of the international markets. If you just look at the footprint of Best Buy itself throughout the U.S., it has about, I think, almost 800 stores, large format stores throughout the U.S., whereas in markets like Asia, it only has about 200. So I think there's much more opportunity in those markets, and not in regards to not only growing the Best Buy brand, but also from the angle that there's less competitors out there. Also internationally, that's where you're seeing the emerging economies, where you're seeing the development of the middle class and people that are developing that, higher levels of disposable income. And for Best Buy to ignore those markets, we think would be a, big blunder for them going forward.
Can you talk a little bit more about how we could expand our mobile? I don't think our mobile sales right now are as stellar as they should be.
Just in the latest fiscal year alone, their mobile products, their mobile and computing products, actually was their bright spot. That is where Best Buy earned 6% comp store sales year over year, whereas you were looking at declines in many of their other areas. You know, you're seeing nowadays a lot of consumers are moving away from those PC sales and they're going into tablets, mobile devices, you know, like handsets. So we think, again, that's something that they need to capitalize on and need to focus on. The other thing with these Best Buy mobile stores is that they require a much smaller footprint. So while the large format stores in the U.S. Encompass about anywhere between 37 to 38,000 square feet, these smaller format stores are only about 1,400 square feet. So again, we were talking about they really want to maximize that profit per square foot and bring up those margins, which is so tough in this competitive marketplace.
Why do we want to increase the introduction of private label products?
Well, along with increasing the introduction of these products, which there's some products that some people might know, such as Geek Squad and Insignia, which are Best Buy exclusive private label products. You know, but currently, when I was actually doing the research, those are the only two that really came into my mind, and I realized there was tons of these other products that Best Buy offers. So along with releasing these new products, we really want to focus on marketing these new products as well. I think it's been a huge issue facing Best Buy. So as we said, we want to allocate $50 million per quarter to really getting the word and promoting awareness of these brands, because the margins are just so much higher on a private label product as opposed to, you know, having a product from another company. So this will help kind of chip away at that high cost structure that we keep referring back to.
Typically if our customer is towards the middle to the end of the product life cycle, typically the prices for products that they might buy are lower. So would they be more inclined to buy private label because the advantage of a private label is price? Or it just seems to me that there's a little bit of a dichotomy there that we're not...
well, as these products reach the end of the life cycle, we will have these products that are reaching this point in Best Buy as well. But we think with these private label products, we can even undercut these prices further and, you know, really promote this idea of saving the consumer the money by buying directly from Best Buy, produced by Best Buy, where the inventory is held in Best Buy, and really can just kind of cut down these costs.
And just to tag on to that a little bit, you know, what these exclusive products and private labels, they're both going to bring in higher margins, which is, again, something that Best Buy really needs to focus on. And as Nick mentioned in the presentation, it's really going to address this issue of showrooming, because these products are only going to be available through Best Buy. So particularly with those exclusive products that are made by outside, you know, main manufacturers with that brand's name, if they're only available through Best Buy and they're an attractive product that have been properly marketed, consumers are going to have to go through Best Buy to acquire those products.
Can we talk a little bit about the issues we've had at the very top of the management team with the recent resignation of the CEO and the founder? How do you see those ethics issues affecting the launch of many of the recommendations you presented us with today? And what kind of management team should we be looking for? Should they be inside the company? Should we be looking outside the company? So it's a two-parter.
Firstly, since Richard Schultz has stepped down, he actually still plays a really large role in the company. As we said, he's the company's largest shareholder, and so he's kind of made statements that they're considering taking the company private, which would obviously be a whole other venue to explore.